Welcome home to St. Anne's. We want you to know that you're welcome to join us at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Please be sure to hit subscribe to receive our sermons. We can't wait to meet you.
So I know most of you, maybe you know this about me, but I tend to always want to know what's missing. So I looked at the readings for today. Go ahead, look at your readings. And you'll notice in the gospel that there's a chunk missing. Look at the mark this to mark that. Do you see that? There's a chunk in there that they took out. Now, if you're like me, you want to know what's missing. What do they not want us to know? And the reason I say always look, because sometimes it's things that you should not read in the Bible, or you don't want the kids to read, right? There are some Psalms you do not want the kids to read. We're talking about like bashing babies' heads against rocks. Like there's nasty stuff in the Bible, all right? It should probably come wrapped in plastic, and you should get carded to buy one. I'm not kidding. Yeah, with the black, like, warning, black label on it. Yes. Okay, so I'll tell you what's actually missing. What's missing is the feeding of the 5,000. It doesn't make you go, why is that what's missing? And I think there's a reason that we need to notice. It's because we get so tied up into the big stuff, right? The exciting things, the incredible big moments, that we don't pay attention to the little things. We want ministry to be this big, booming, exciting thing, right? We want all of the Jesus moments to be the big, booming, exciting things, the awesomeness, right? We want Sunday at church to be like, whoa, right? We want to be blown away. We want to be blown away by God's incredible miracles. We want to hear those incredible stories. We want to tell those stories too, right? That's not the reality of it, though. The reality of it is in the minutia, the little stuff, the day-to-day things, right? Believe it or not, most of ministry is not Moses being given the tablets from a burning bush. Most of it is in our day-to-day interactions with one another. And the moments when we're like, oh, dear God, what am I going to do next? Like when your kid comes to you and they say something, you're like, what do I say? Or when you're in a quandary at work and you're really, really annoyed with a coworker, what do? How do you handle those moments? When you're in traffic or you're at the grocery store and you're in a hurry, it's the minutia, the tiny details, the moment-to-moment choices that you make. That's where ministry lies. And we want it to be these big, incredible moments, right? And the disciples want the big, incredible moments. But you and I have to be reminded of the little things. Ministry is not big, booming awesomeness all the time. Being a Christian is not big, booming awesomeness, miracles, God is a vending machine, He's handing out all this stuff that you want all the time. No, not really. So the disciples are exhausted. They're tired. They've been going out and they're doing. But don't you notice that whatever they're doing isn't really worth the big, booming story? We all know the feeding of the 5,000, right? If you don't know the feeding of the 5,000, come talk to me. We'll chat. The feeding of the 5,000 is a story that all kids learn really, really early in the church. We've all heard it. It's one of the favorite things to preach about because it's a big, cool miracle. Isn't that awesome? It's like the Episcopal coffee hour. There's always enough. Have you ever been to an Episcopal funeral or coffee hour? It's miraculous. There's always enough. And that's this incredible moment. There's not enough, and yet God makes sure that there's enough for everyone. It's so preachable. Oh my goodness, it's the easiest sermon to preach. There's always enough, guys. It's a super easy sermon to preach. But you want to know what's not easy? The Christian life day to day, the interactions with other people, the exhaustion, the chores that you have to do, all this stuff, and you're like, I'm tired. I don't want to pray. I don't have time to pray. And frankly, sometimes you're too frustrated with God to pray. You're angry. You're frustrated. You're exhausted. You're tired. And that That is when Christianity matters the most. What do you do when you're depressed, when you're exhausted, you're anxious, you're tired, you're all those things that nobody ever said the Christian life would be? Do you remember when you're 5? What's the first question that people ask? What are you going to be when you grow up? Any 5-year-old know? Oh, yeah. You want to know what I was going to be when I was 5? A farmer, just like my dad. Things change. Life changes. Incredible moments happen. And that's the Christian life. There are incredible moments. I'm not going to deny that. But there's the minutia, too. There's the day-to-day choices, the things that we have to do. And I know, clergy, we love to tell you about what you're supposed to be doing in your spiritual life. We're like, well, you need to pray the hours. We do Compline on Thursday nights, if you're ever interested. Or we say things like, oh, you need to go see the incredible artwork, because that's where you find God. You need to do this. You need to do that. We have all sorts of lists of things that you're supposed to do. You want to know why people could do the hours? Because they were monks and they had time. You want to know why the monks had time? Do you want to know the real reason that they're praying the hours and the bells are chiming? Do you want to know the real reason? What? That too. You know what time it is. Okay, the real reason that the monks are doing that is because they have time and they know that the people out in the fields and in the villages working don't have time. You guys don't have time. Frankly, I frequently don't have time to do all the things that we are told Christianity looks like. So the monks do it on behalf of the community. And you and I, frankly, do it on behalf of our community. Because sometimes we have time. And sometimes we have energy. And sometimes we have enough faith. And sometimes we don't. And that is so important to hear. We are a community. And the monks were doing that because they knew that others couldn't always do it. Now, as I'm talking about monks, I'm as far as a monk as you could possibly get. But I do think there is some important spirituality. One of my favorites is a monk named Brother Lawrence. Brother Lawrence. Anyone ever heard of Brother Lawrence? Okay, good. It's like I know something that you guys don't know. It's amazing. Brother Lawrence said that it's important to find God in the everyday. And this is why you will notice I never tell you guys what to do in your spiritual life. I say that you need to have one. I think it's important that we all have one. But you'll notice that I never recommend one. And because it changes from moment to moment. And Brother Lawrence says this, find the God in the everyday. Because it's not the big mountaintop moments. It's not the flaming bushes of fire with God. Those are awesome, and they're amazing. And I hope that your life is filled with them. But it's really the day-to-day. And he says, because every monk has a chore, right? His was to do the dishes. Find the spirituality in doing the dishes. And everyone's like, hey, you hear that, kids? Find it in doing dishes. Vacuuming, maybe? I don't know. But I think that's so important for you and I to hear, that it is in those moments that God is there. So whatever it is in your day-to-day life, and that stuff that doesn't seem all that exciting, I don't know, mowing the grass, whatever it is for you, God is there. And finding that spirituality in that moment is so very, very important. Don't worry about climbing the hills and the mountains. Climb the hills and mountains if you have an opportunity. Go see the incredible, incredible cathedrals and all those incredible things. Go see them. See what we have done. But what I promise you, God will be in there most is in your moments, your everyday, day-to-day minutia, but yet your drive to work, which for me is 45 minutes, but it's all to myself, so I get to listen to NPR by myself, and nobody complains. That's pretty spiritually enlifting. Maybe it's taking your shower, maybe it's mowing the grass, maybe it's doing the dishes. I don't know. But I challenge you this week. I challenge you, don't worry so much about Sunday morning. Please come. We love having you. But that's really so that we are enriched and that we are a supportive community, that's not necessarily always going to be where God speaks to you. But look for God to speak to you in the everyday moments and the tiny little bitty things. When you're feeling bored, pray, talk, listen. Because that is the important thing. So these stories bookend a really big moment, right? But they're not terribly exciting stories. They're just the disciples going around working, doing the stuff that they're supposed to be doing, the day-to-day stuff that they're supposed to be doing. And yeah, some of their stuff is really exciting, like healing people. That's kind of a big deal. We're all for that. But it's not so exciting that it's even worth listing. We don't have any names. We don't even know what they're doing. We just know that they're out there working, right? They're out there doing their job. So find your job and then find God in your job. That is the challenge that I give all of us. And frankly, I'll give it to myself too, because you want to know what I'm doing this week? I'm running around kids to all sorts of different camps and fun things. Have you ever found God taking your kid to tennis camp? I'm going to try it. And I hope that you too will find God in everyday things, even if it's just doing the dishes. Did you hear that, Wesley? Dishes.
We want you to know that you're welcome to join us at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Please be sure to hit subscribe to receive our sermons. We can't wait to meet you.